I'm so excited today to have Clackamas County Commissioner Ben West here. I've been waiting a long time to talk to you, and I'm really happy to have you here, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And Tara's here again to co-host. She's going to be co-hosting a little bit more, and maybe Jelly occasionally sometimes. But yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for acting like you invited me.
I did. I totally did. There's no fakeness around that. Before we get started, I want to take a shot or a little drink of this stuff that Ben mentioned.
Okay.
He really wanted me to try it. I've never tried it. It's a type of Scotch, right?
Yes. So, you know, when I hang out with my friends, often it's in the backyard. Sometimes it's with a cigar. But we like whiskey. But this is Scotch, and it's really peaty. And so what does that mean? So peaty Scotch basically is like drinking the undercarriage of a Scotsman that's been wearing a kilt all day in the Highland Games.
Okay.
That's kind of what it's like.
I'm even more excited.
It's kind of grassy, earthy, smoky.
It's like making out with a bog monster.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, under its kilt. It's like,
Okay. Everything's happening under the kilt right now.
so this is some fun stuff. This one's called Wee Beastie. It's almost gone, but I wanted to share it with you guys. Which one's Wee Beastie?
I think it was.
This is Wee.
I thought it
That's
was the red
the 10.
one. Yeah.
Wee Beastie. Yeah, so Wee Beastie because it's quite beastie. And what it says here on the back is, this is by Ardbeg. It's Scottish. It's an Ensley single malt Scotch, a monster of drama, which
Okay.
totally fits this group and
Oh,
everything
girl.
around it. Yes. Hey, hello.
That's in my bio.
And it says, young and intensely smoky with a rich, explosive mouthfeel of chocolate, tar, and savory meats. Woof.
Under the kilt.
Everybody has to growl a little bit after they have this. With cracked black pepper and sappy pine resin on the snout, this is a monster of dram.
I feel anxious now. I have anxiety.
So
you're really
I just have a
building
little.
up
So
the
we're
hype.
gonna start with the 5-year-old Wee Beastie.
All right.
And so first, everybody gets to take just a woof of the bog.
Okay. I'll take a whiff.
Okay, you're gonna smell that smoke in it.
This might throw me, just be like, oh no. Ooh. That's like, it's like barbecue.
This is
mixed
like
with,
Freedom Braveheart style.
Yeah.
I mean, we're about to
I
like.
kind of like.
This is us taking on the Longshanks.
See, okay.
Yeah.
It's like in that part in
creating a
Braveheart where
cloud.
they're just like,
Actually, I'm gonna pour your guys' first.
Hold.
Oh. Okay, let me see yours. Hold on.
That's good.
Don't be afraid.
It's probably the first time too, by the way, I've had Scotch in like over 10 years, I think.
We're gonna finish this bottle off because you know what? This is what friends do.
I'm so scared. I already had this and I'm scared.
You
It's
already
like
had,
it's like if somebody left a bottle of cough syrup open in a cigar shop.
Okay.
All right.
This is just a little taste of Clackamas County's toxic masculinity, or something like that. I don't know.
That could be its
All
own
right.
label.
Its own label.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, guys. Cheers.
All right, cheers to Clackamas
Just
County.
have a little Wee Beastie.
Yeah. Ooh. You know what?
For the Pete.
That's a little more pleasant than I was expecting.
I think the mullet gives you like a shield towards this, like an
It's a
affinity
toxic,
automatically.
yeah.
My eyes are watering.
I like the smokiness. There's a weird, like, I don't know what it is, almost like metal taste. But I like it. I do like it.
It's
Yeah. It's like
I feel more.
It's
Hot
like
monster.
licking a moldy thatched roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, the smokiness
next
now.
to the chimney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
like I've been-
I don't know how to do a Scottish brogue, but it would probably be appropriate right now.
Brogue. I don't know.
It's like it's the
their-
thick
It's that
Scottish
sexy
accent.
Oh, I got
accent.
you. Okay.
Yeah. Anybody got a little Sean Connery, little Sean Connery in them?
Yeah.
Stud.
I feel like my mouth's been camping for like 2 weeks. That's what it is.
I don't think I can talk anymore.
I can't actually tell you how I think my mouth feels. It wouldn't be appropriate for this podcast, but it's quite delicious.
I would
All right,
like
well-
to hear about it. Okay, wait. I'm sipping.
Ask my husband.
Thank you for bringing that in. Yeah, I like
We'll do this one in a little bit. We'll give your taste buds a minute to, but we have more of this, so we can just enjoy the 10-year, which is a little smoother. I really like it. It's called
Why does
Big,
the lady have
Untamed, and Ultimate. So these have like
There's a scared woman
there's a
on
little
the back
bit
of
of
this
like
bottle.
a horror theme on these bottles. These are like I think these are just kind of a fun little monster retro vibe to them. And so so you'll see like these bottles are just like more like samplers. The third one was already, I think we drank it all.
I like it. It's like a horror theme. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, next time maybe we'll just
You
do like a
should be
whiskey
scared.
sampler or something
Yeah.
fun.
Okay, yes.
I'm down to do any
Yeah.
kind of flight of.
I mean, we can't always talk about politics. I mean, my God, it's so, yeah. Sometimes you just gotta talk about things that are enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's honestly, it's one of the reasons why, like, I think you're a cool, like, elected official is because like, I follow politics and I've followed it for a long time, but like, I'm so ready for more like down to earth, like real ass people as opposed to just people that just, it's all bullet points and it's all, and you just seem so real and authentic.
Oh God, I'm
you know?
super flawed. I'm just trying to show up and
But
do
that's
the
what
job.
that's good. That's
So,
good.
like,
That's healthy though. I think,
Yeah,
you know, it's like-
I definitely have my shortcomings, but I'm enjoying the work. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, I'm gonna get started. I just want to start with walk me through your history with legislating gay marriage in Oregon, because I was thinking about this, and when I graduated high school in 2005, I missed being able to vote by like 6 months, and I had this bumper sticker on
You graduated high school.
2005.
I think I was supposed to graduate in 04.
But there was some
God, I feel old.
gay marriage thing on the ballot, and I wanted to vote for it, and I couldn't, but I can't remember what that was. I think what I'm
yep.
thinking of is the first gay marriage happened in 2004, and it was like in Massachusetts or something.
We can roll the time machine back on.
But yeah,
that.
I want to walk me through that and how you helped with that.
Yeah, so I grew up actually in a really conservative kind of culture. My world was pretty conservative. My family was conservative. I grew up in a church at that time it was once known as Bible Temple, then it was known as City Bible, and kind of this faith community came together and they put on the ballot Measure 36 on the ballot. So what happened was there was the Multnomah County County Commissioners and their chair. They kind of in the dark of night, they went ahead and tried to pass same-sex marriage in Multnomah County.
Okay.
I can't remember the one Multnomah County Commissioner that dissented. I think his name was Lonnie something. I don't remember his last name off the top of my head. But they passed it. It was totally outside their scope of authority as a county, but they went ahead and passed it. So there was a little bit of a backlash here. So the faith community came together to do a constitutional amendment to the state's constitution. So you do that through the ballot initiative process. So some of those signatures that you go and sign when people are doing petition gathering, sometimes those are to amend the state constitution by direct initiative ballot. And so the faith community organized and they did that. They put Measure 36 on the ballot. And this is all kind of around that same time as 2004, I think, around that time period. I was actually kind of just coming out of the closet at that time.
Yeah.
And so, super confusing time for me. But the voters passed to make marriage in Oregon through the state constitution between one man and one woman. That was ballot Measure 36.
Okay. I remember that now. I think 36.
Yeah. And so about 10 years later in 2014 is when we overturned it. It's kind of crazy because I grew up in this environment and knew very well the people who were spearheading Measure 36. Kind of a tough time for me, just coming out, trying to figure out who I was, dealing with my own sexuality, kind of fearful at times, uneasy, anxious, dealing with the family drama that often those that are gay or lesbian, when they have to come out, right? There's just everybody has family dynamics. So dealing, family's complex, right? And it's not always clean and easy. It's not always buttoned up nicely, but you got to work through stuff, and that's part of being a family. So, and my community, like that I had completely grown up in the world that I had grown up in at that time, and still often is not perceived or always the easiest community to come out in.
Yeah.
And so then there's this big legislative piece. So for me, it was actually kind of a wild time. I was still trying to even figure out who I was just as a man, not just even as a gay man. So I was working through all that. So Measure 36 passes in Oregon by a pretty healthy margin. And then 10 years later, long story short, and I can get into more details, my husband and I were the marriage equality plaintiffs with some other plaintiffs that overturned Oregon's same-sex ban in federal court. We challenged it under the 14th Amendment. Okay. The fight was for marriage equality under the 14th Amendment, and we overturned that ban and then became a state where all loving couples and families like mine could legally exist under the eyes of the law. Yeah. So that was like also my thrust into politics.
I love how you say thrust.
It was a thrusting. But it was like from being a nursing student and a foster care dad and just kind of a normal dude going through life here in the Portland area to now being in front of national media with a very consequential historical case that made historical differences and my family benefits from today. And that was quite the journey. So, I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell. It started with kind of Measure 36, and 2014 is when we won our case in federal court.
Wow,
and
that's
then,
such a long...
So it was about a 10-year period between it being banned to it being overturned.
Yeah.
And then I was also invited to go to to D.C. as they were hearing oral arguments and they were hearing the case at the Supreme Court for the entire country, right? And so, it was an honor of my lifetime to be able to be engaged in that effort. I know a lot of people on the right at that time were not happy with me. I might have kind of taken out and that kind of killed their sacred cow.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I do believe that it was the just and right thing to do, was to fight for equal protection under the law.
Yeah.
And then now how my family and I determine our success is up to us and nobody else, and how we play that out. But in the eyes of the state, we have the right to be legally married.
Yeah. That is wild that, like, even in 2004, what was that one, 36?
Yeah, I think it was 2004. I'm pretty sure,
like, just that long ago, the whole state
had banned it.
Had modified the state constitution. That's wild to think about.
I don't even remember that happening.
Yeah.
I did not care one.
A lot of Democrats had to
anything.
support that for it to pass.
Yeah, right.
A lot of Democrats, and it was even 4 years after that there were a lot of bipartisan politicians on both sides of the aisle that were very much opposed to my family legally existing and having equal protection under the law.
Jeez, yeah. I mean, I don't know if thank you for your service is right. I know you're also in the military, but
yes,
that's a really cool flipping of people's rights, or like in the right direction.
Yeah. It was a crazy way to kind of be put into the spotlight and somebody that started to have political influence. I also very much felt like kind of my own little unicorn in my own little world because I'm not like hyper progressive ideological person. Like, I'm not a leftist by any means. And then sometimes I also felt like there was no home for me within the political right either.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of had to be my own independent little person and call balls and strikes as I saw them. I have different influences that help form my value system and the way that I may act. But I'm not afraid to kind of buck the system either way and to challenge that, to be skeptical to it, and then just try to do things that make it more fair overall. And I just wanted my life to have the same legal protections as anybody else. I'm not asking anybody to determine my outcomes for my life. I just wanted it to be fair from the starting point.
Yeah.
Especially since we were adopting our son Jaquan from the foster care system. So that, I believed he had a dog in this fight also. He also needed to know that his parents could be and were legally married. I think that helped build a strong, stable family structure and unit for him to help heal and to get through his own issues as a kid that was bounced around the foster care system. So, part of that also, that fight was for him, right? And it was personal. And
it makes sense.
And maybe different people had different reasons for supporting that, advocating for it, or opposing it. But that's our story.
Yeah. Yeah, and it totally makes sense to me of like his rights as a adopted son and your rights as a parent to be like, we don't have the same opportunity as other parents with kids because, I don't know, all the benefits that come with marriage and all that stuff. Yeah,
like he's sitting in his second grade class, and Jimmy next to him gets to talk about his family and his parents loving each other and what that means. My kid didn't have that opportunity, and he that story in itself was quite a long story, but he had the right to know that he was safe and stable and that a family loved him too. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is important to also show my son the importance of family and what that means, and that and those things are valuable, and having that kind of safety and structure in a home that two parents can provide is valuable to children and to him. And I believe it was a big piece for his current success as a young man, was not just the community around us that was quite supportive, but also knowing that he had two parents that would always show up for him.
Yeah.
And no matter what trauma he's dealing with, no matter how hard the day, he always had that safety and support
parents.
and love, period.
Yeah.
And trust me, that parenting thing is really hard.
Yeah.
And often I'm probably got it wrong, but you just keep working at it, keep showing up at it, and it makes a difference. And so I think it made a difference in Jay's life, and having that legal protection and structure in the eyes of the state, I think, is important. And people may not like this. The state's not interested if you love your spouse. Mm-hmm. They don't care.
It's not part of the equation.
It's not part of the equation. It's not the romance laws, right? But what it is about is, in the eyes of the state, social sciences have proven over and over again that a two-parent stable family produces better societal outcomes, stable tax bases, less crime, more. It's like that first institution of society that needs to be healthy is family.
It's totally been broken apart.
And it's been broken apart, right?
Nobody's together.
Nobody.
You're together, but almost nobody's together.
Or, you just have, there's just been there really in many ways culture has been an attack on the family.
Like breathing smoke.
Are you're like smoke. A little dragon over here. Yeah.
Dragonheart, you ever see that movie?
Yeah. Oh, that's Sean
Connery.
Yeah. Sean Connery.
Oh
yes.
My gosh.
Yeah. Look it up.
Yeah. No, that is a good point though, because I was thinking you're almost also fighting for like stable parenting in a way.
Correct. Yeah.
We need more stable parents. Parents, get it together.
And I grew up with a single parent, so I know all about the downsides of having.
And there's some champion single parents that are like freaking superheroes.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to. There's all kinds of reasons why things happen in life, and it does no good to disparage any of those people. We just need to have better community supports to help single parents get through it. Like, we need to do a better job of taking care of each other. But for Jay, and for us, that we believed in the eyes of the state, we were doing the work, and we also adopted a child that was considered unadoptable with a lot of trauma in his life.
Okay.
So in the eyes of the state, my kid is not going to be a statistic. My kid is not going to end up from foster care to the penal system.
Yeah.
He's not going to end up like the rest of his siblings who are really struggling and have looks like a different path than my son does.
Yeah.
So when we start to contribute in a way that's meaningful to the state, that prevents that what the state is trying to promote through marriage, then in my opinion, we should be legally recognized and have the same protections as a family as any other family, because in the eyes of the state, we are doing the work, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just personalizing it. And, there's a lot of people that want to you don't have to have kids to be married, or there's all these other nuances and stuff, but I'm just telling it why we got into this fight and why it was important to us, because family means something, even if that family doesn't look like everyone else's family. And I think there's a lot of kids and a lot of people that need that type of structure, and our society needs that structure again, and we need to value it and promote it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that, and weirdly enough, I never thought of it in that way of like I said, you're supporting not only gay people's rights to marry, but just the platonic family and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it is hugely important. Like we said, I feel like the divorce rate's 90% or something now. I don't know.
Really
but
bad.
It's not that high, but it's too high.
Yeah.
Right. And I just, and people are more isolated, right?
Yeah.
People are, I remember if something happened to one of my parents, or we were struggling, then we'd have enough casseroles for 3 months at our door, right? And we would take care of each other. Mm-hmm. And so often now we're looking for other substitutes to fill that void. And sometimes that plays itself out in extremism. Sometimes that plays itself out in unhealthy behaviors. And then I think it also is also why we have a certain level of academic and mental health issues, is because there's a normal societal healthy human void that needs to be filled, that we have not nurtured, and we have actually, I think, in some ways attacked within our culture, and and so we need to be willing to rebuild up that sense of community and family again.
Yeah, and you talk about addiction in our communities, that's totally a piece of it to me. It's all that isolation you mentioned,
Yeah.
So can we get into, I don't know, nursing or city council, which would be chronologically first?
Well, nursing first. Before I was ever elected, I was
school.
a nurse, and I was in school, and I became a nurse, and then I ran for city council.
Okay, wait. I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you teach me how to give stitches?
No.
Oh.
No.
Well, useless.
You can go
I also had a useless medical question. I've had dandruff for 5 years. I know you're a cardiologist, nurse, but what can I do?
Are you looking
is
for
the mullet
a makeover?
is the mullet snowing?
Mullet's snowing heavy, dude.
It's snowing heavy.
Strong, thick flakes.
This is like queer eye for the straight
Do I need a
guy.
prescription? Or I've been using Head and Shoulders.
Have you talked to your primary care provider? Do you have a primary care provider?
I don't even have what they call
Come
PCP,
on now.
right? Is that what they call it? PCP.
Yeah, PCP, primary care provider.
Yeah. Like the last time I went and got a physical was to Zoom Care, if you know what that is.
I do know what Zoom Care is.
But I don't, unfortunately, have a primary care. I probably should.
You should. Everybody should have a primary care provider they
either.
trust.
I'm sorry,
Come
Ben.
on.
We're letting you down.
I don't like. Well, I won't disparage the medical community because you're great.
You can find a provider that will fit you and work with you well. If you need to, like, you know, your insurance probably has a list of providers. You can do your own research and try to find one that maybe will be a good fit for you.
And your dandruff.
But you know,
My dandruff,
I think your dandruff is probably the least of the worries. But you need to
Hopefully.
to get checked up.
Okay.
You need to be like good.
Have them take a scalp sample.
Yeah.
Like
Just a
scalp
crusting.
A scalp
Just a piece.
sample. Okay.
Just a little piece.
I have decrusted my own kids' heads. I could probably
Oof.
deal with you.
Lice.
No, not lice. We never had lice. Crusty head, you know?
Just like dirty kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sebum, dirt.
Yeah.
Sebum.
I don't know if girls are the
oil,
same, but my
scalpel.
little boy was like a constant, like, just whirlwind of like the what was it from Lionel and Rich, or the Peanuts? Who was the dirty one?
Yeah.
The one that always had a cloud of pig pen, just a cloud of like
Yeah.
dirt running around because he
Yeah.
was like active and into everything.
I also have a pig pen.
Yeah, I remember we were supposed to
two
go.
of them,
I think we were supposed to
actually.
go to a wedding or something one day. Like, I had him all dressed. I had him showered. I had him, you know, all ready to go. He had his he called them his fancy clothes. And so then I got him ready, and he's supposed to wait for me. I go upstairs and get ready. I come down. He's like coming down from the top of a tree covered in moss and dirt. I'm just like, are you kidding me right now, Jaquan?
But he smelled great, I'm sure.
He smelled a little bit like probably a little peaty.
Peaty.
Did you light the tree on fire first?
Oh my God. I was like, what were you rolling in? And I told you, I can't bring you to I think it was a wedding we were supposed to go to or something.
Oh, I'm sure he was adorable.
Excuse me. I just remember like, were you sliding in the grass? Like all the grass burns?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You know, so.
Well, tell me like what. I'm mostly curious about what it was like for you being a nurse during COVID, but
Interesting, yeah.
I mean, anything you want to share about being a nurse? I think.
Yeah, I mean, being a nurse absolutely informs much of my life.
Yeah.
The worldview of being a nurse and why I'm a nurse and understanding that informs my public service, sometimes how I parent, how I address situations and problems. And so why be a nurse? What is it about nursing that's uniquely special? Not just me, but all of us, I believe. Well, why am I a nurse? I believe I'm called to care for people. Called to care. What does that mean? It means that my neighbor or those in my community, no matter who they are, whether I agree with them or not, or outside of politics or drama and all this stuff we have in tribalism, that they are a unique and special individual. They have intrinsic value and worth that is quite special. And because of that intrinsic value and worth, that they are worthy of healing. I worked on death row at Oregon State Penitentiary. That is a person, and my job was not to judge them or based on their actions, even though they may have been horrifically despicable. My job was to provide hands of healing, the best that I could, and provide every person that dignity. Why is that, and why are we called to care? I personally believe that the value system that I think shaped much of Western civilization believes that all men are created in the image of God. If we are created in His image, then I believe that we are instructed to be people that care, right? It doesn't mean you can't be principled and you can't fight for your values and you can't, try to, fight in different arenas for your community. But for me, within healthcare, and I believe also much within my public service, I try to remember that, especially when it's really hard and that person isn't making it easy to like give them that care.
It's kind of an equalizer for
everybody. And I think we miss sometimes what's uniquely special about Western civilization, modern medicine in across the globe, is because of strong Judeo-Christian principles that were infused within the Western culture that made sure that we had the scientific method, that we had this why do we care for people? Where does that come from? What worldview informs those beliefs and actions? And I'm not professing any specific belief. I mean, I'm not expressing any specific religion by any means. I'm not really a religious person, and I don't really. My relationship with God is quite complicated. However, I can look at like the systems that informed what made Western civilization so unique and special within human history. And a lot of that is a philosophy that comes from the Judeo-Christian principles. And it is that piece that we believe that every person has very unique intrinsic value, and that they are worthy, that they are special, that they are uniquely themselves as an individual. And we honor that. And that is where the desire to bring hope, healing, and restoration to people comes from. That is the worldview that informs that. Other worldview like postmodernism and other that is not the worldview. They often see people as just a cog in the wheel. Right. They're just a widget within an infinity group.
It's a little more nihilistic.
Yeah. And exactly right. Instead of like seeing them as these very uniquely beautiful, special individuals and treating them as such. And we benefit today from that worldview that has seen what is really miracles within medicine, and life expectancy and the ability to get treatment. I want more people to get access to quality care. And so how do I that informs a lot of my public service too. That same worldview is why I'm a nurse. And why I went all the way through, and I worked all the way through grad school and focused on health policy work, and how does that intersect with my public service? That nursing piece really is a core of my identity.
Yeah. What's the piece that to me is really obvious is that you're interfacing with the public so much as a nurse, I would imagine. Yeah. That you just by default have to deal with all walks of life, and like you were just saying, I can see how that translates to public service.
Yeah. Yeah, and COVID was tough. I worked and I had a population that was quite, at risk if they got COVID. I had a lot of people that had a hard time navigating all the different messages. Yeah. And the things that were told to be dominant truth that weren't true. And I tried to sit down with patients and have a conversation that says, okay, let's quiet the noise. We're not listening to Dr. Fauci. We're not listening to Kate Brown and the Oregon Health Authority.
Amen.
We also don't need to listen to all these other talking heads that aren't doctors, right? Let's talk about what's in your chart, and let's help you make your decision. You are an autonomous being that should have the right to make your own decision on whether this is the right thing for you. And whatever you decide, even if I disagree with it, I respect your autonomy to make that decision. It's not my decision. That is not my role is to teach, guide, respect, and walk with my patients. It is never my job to manipulate or force or coerce them into some type of care that's not correct, especially if they have the autonomy and the mensa to do it themselves. Yeah. Right? They don't need me to step in when they have the mental capacity and they rationalize for their own selves what is best for them and their families. So we just had honest conversations with them, never forcing them in one way or the other, but giving them the dignity to make that choice themselves. And that was rare for people to have any medical professional walk them through that. But that's about trust. That's about relationship, and that's about better health outcomes for individuals. It took time and often didn't always get it just to gain the trust, quiet the noise, and just lead people through the process in a really difficult time.
There was a lot of noise, too.
There's a lot of noise.
Oh, it was very noisy.
Yeah.
Everything was noise.
Yeah. It does seem like that. It seems because that seems to kind of match what you were just saying of let's kind of put that all this noise aside for a second and just talk about your personal situation and your health and you know your body, and what's good for you, and you're trying to bring your expertise to that.
Yeah, I was trying to not indoctrinate, do my best to educate while respecting where they were coming from. Some people were afraid and sheepish to say, hey, I have these concerns, because they were already expecting that a nurse or a medical professional would automatically poo-poo or marginalize or demonize them for having these questions or for not adhering immediately to whatever the orthodoxy was. A lot of it in Portland, especially where I worked, it seemed to be more about a virtue signal and kind of marking and telling everybody where you believed politically or what your ideology was and how ideological you were and how pure you were within the orthodoxy. It was more about that than actual like evidence-based practice. And it was also difficult because, my God, we were learning as on the fly too, and things were changing all the time. All the time.
I'm just curious, do you feel like not only with the COVID stuff, but in general, like, because to me that's the last place politics should be, it's like in the hospital or wherever. Yeah. Do you feel like it's more politicized now than ever?
In Portland, yes.
Okay.
It's
a West Coast, maybe.
Well, I think it's an urban cities, big urban cities issue, especially on the West Coast. But I don't care about your politics if you're my patient. Yeah. I do not care. I mean, I want you to be a good person, but that's not why I'm caring for you. There is no moral test for me to give you quality care and dignity. Yeah.
That seems like how it should be, but yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, well, my question was dumb. I just wanted to know if they ever tried to get you to do a stupid dance like in a hazmat suit.
No, I did no TikTok dances while in COVID. None. I don't even think I did any. I am so careful and neurotic about trying. I mean, I hope to God I don't think I have one out there, but I don't do. I'm very careful and cautious. I don't agree with doing these types of posts. It's too easy to catch some patient information that should be private. Yeah, it's too easy to like, it can be the wrong perception within it, right? It can be a little unprofessional.
I'd imagine they have social media policies.
Most hospitals have very strict social media policies, and it's not okay. Yeah. Like, what if a patient, like, you just can't risk that, right?
What's it called? HIPAA stuff,
You're ripe for HIPAA violations inadvertently, which are still, really, that it's a big deal in the hospital system. Like, you have to be very cautious of that stuff, not just legally and liability wise, but just morally.
Yeah. I was curious too. I saw, because you mentioned the death row stuff, which is really interesting, but I also saw you were like overseas doing medical care.
Yeah. So I've done a number of like medical missions in Peru. The first one was at a children's clinic, a surgical clinic, where they did a number of things, but what they were kind of known for was repairing cleft palates. Gotcha. And surgical work. And then there was also a wing where I did some work within a hospice wing that they had with people within hospice care, and I was able to help with in that wing. And then I went back with Senator Cedric Hayden. He's an Oregon State senator. Okay. He is like the Roseburg area, Sutherland area senator. Okay. In that kind of Umpqua Valley area. And we went into the jungles of Peru and set up little medical clinics and did daily clinics for people. He would do dental work, and I would do basic health and primary care type stuff with patients. Yeah. I saw anywhere from dealing with people that had bug infestations to cardiac issues to untreated diabetes to wounds to acute injuries, and there was nobody out there. We would take these little wooden boats for an hour or two up the Amazon River, and they're like these big, long, kind of rickety canoes. It was a little scary. Yeah. And then we would take generators and supplies, and we would kind of Sherpa them up into a village and set it up for the day, and then
just have a clinic
and have clinic for these people. And we did that day after day after day. It was one of the coolest and most rewarding things I've ever done. Cool. I love it. I still go back and just scroll through the pictures, man. It was just so satisfying and so awesome. And I always just grow, not only as a nurse, but just as a human, and giving perspective. And then it is so great when you can alleviate, even if it's just for a moment, someone's real pain that they just didn't have access to basic care, but you're there and you give it to them. And it's like, it's just so awesome to see their whole world change. And so it was quite awesome. And so that the last time I did that was just before, in 2019, just a month or two before, it was the pandemic. So I haven't been able to do it since.
A good thing you made it
recent
back.
Though. I thought it was longer than that.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I ended up joining the Navy is because when there are giant catastrophes, like often it's the military that's able to respond to these catastrophes globally, and then we can go on site and provide much needed care in all different regions throughout the world. I'm sure that the military is now dealing with the crisis in Hawaii, the fire in Maui, but that is just something that I wanted to get myself more opportunity to engage in. It is work I enjoy.
That's very cool. Yeah. Do you have any more before I move on?
I'm gonna do something awkward though. I'm producing a squeak because my holster is like touching the back of the chair.
Well,
so I'm gonna
do
take
whatever
it
you
off.
need.
Well, I think it's a
You
good
can
time
edit this
for a
out
whiskey
while
for
I
a
do it.
Scotch break.
We could do
Okay,
another break.
well-
We're gonna do the
Just
This is the original giant.
Okay.
This is the
OG
fancy
giant.
one. Yeah. A gigantic burst of smoky fruit and peat entombed in dark chocolate on the nose. These are both on the nose. So tarry smoke powers through the palate, followed by a huge mouthful of chewy peat oils.
When they say
Oh,
I
peat,
feel like we're
chewy.
just it's like, yeah, we're just gonna take some
P-E-A-T.
snuff and just gnaw on it.
is that what I keep hearing Pete? I don't know if it's the name.
P-T.
P-E-A-T.
Pete, yeah.
Okay. Just
Yeah,
make sure.
P-E-A-t
Okay.
or P-T.
Yeah.
At a Y on
Are we
there.
It's
doing
gonna
Are we
taste
doing it?
like crazy.
Okay.
It's gonna be like Sean Connery's bong water or something. I don't even know what's gonna happen here.
This is in honor of the late Sean Connery.
Yeah.
That burns a little bit on the whisker. Okay.
Do you guys, it's kind of aside, but do you have a favorite Bond? Is he your favorite Bond?
Oh.
Mine is Daniel Craig.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I liked the modern ones though because they were like really gritty,
Okay.
and I thought that was cool. But other than that, it's Sean Connery.
I think Connor's got to be the best. I don't know.
I mean,
He's wonderful.
I'm gonna go Sean Connery.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Sean Connery. Daniel Craig's a good modern one though. The modern ones I like. I'll do two. Daniel Craig is the modern Sean Connery,
You got the classic.
and then Sean Connery's classic. Yeah. So you have
Yeah.
modern Bond and then classic Bond.
All right, you filled this one.
They couldn't
up.
even make those movies today. The Sean Connery ones could
Oh,
not
no.
even be
Oh,
made.
no.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
We were talking about them at work, and like they're all like PG, and it's like what?
Yeah, I
It's
know.
like before
I
PG-13.
know.
I mean, it
came
would
out.
just be triggering for
I
a
would
lot of
not
people.
show that to my kids.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, these are just a little more substantial.
All right.
Okay, here we
Ugh.
go. Come on now.
I'm gonna get rolled out of here.
It is a little smoother than the other one.
I like this one the best.
This
It's
is easier.
It's like chewing on like the leather boot.
Once again, chewing.
It's like someone's boot has been on the fire and just.
Yeah,
It is, though.
It
You're
is like
right.
it's like
Yeah.
drying your wet, soppy
It is.
fungus boot by the fire
With a wool sock inside
with a wool
of it.
sock still inside of
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Shetland something.
Yeah.
You know.
I've
Yeah.
been. I don't know. I'm not like bragging, but I did go to Scotland one time. I was in Glasgow.
Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. Did
I'm
you
getting
just-
Queen Mary of Scots vibes. Do you guys ever follow the Tudors history and all of it? Oh my god,
I don't even know
love
what
it.
you're
I'm
talking
so
about.
nerding out. So Queen Mary of Scots was the cousin and arguably the heir to the throne, and could be a challenger to Elizabeth I, the last Tudor queen, the longest reigning. She wasn't I think the latest queen who just passed was the
Yeah.
longest reigning monarch, but she was one of the most consequential monarchs in human history, right? Queen Elizabeth I.
Yeah.
She was the daughter of King Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn.
Wow.
And then she ended up. It's quite a great story. There's a lot of movies and books on it. At the end of the day, she ended up killing her cousin because she was a threat to her throne. And there could have been a strong argument that she actually was the rightful monarch and not Queen Elizabeth I. Anyway, she was Scottish. And there's a lot of Scottish. And then her son, King James I believe, was the first Stuart.
Right.
And after Queen Elizabeth
Bible.
passed away, because she had no heirs, she never married, had children. Yeah,
That's
so
true, the Virgin
so
Queen.
then that's
I
when
bet
the
she wasn't.
Scottish took the English throne. It wasn't Queen Mary,
Okay.
it wasn't Queen Mary of Scots, but it was her son.
I
James.
should know. I had a grandma that was 100% British, and I don't know any of this shit. But
I geeked
she's
out on
she's
it.
dead now.
I also like Downton Abbey, and there's another
Okay.
great one called Call the Midwife. That's a great British
Are
series.
you on? What's the BritBox? Do you watch that thing? BritBox.
No,
like
I
their
bet you my husband does though. He's
subscription.
really into all of the even more.
British
He
shows.
really loves all the British television.
Yeah,
He's
me
so
too.
cultured.
I
you know.
loved Blackadder when I was growing up, and like
Oh.
these Keeping Up Appearances was one, like just a Britcom that I thought was hilarious, and Mr. Bean.
Yeah, Mr. Bean.
My
Bean
gosh,
was good.
Mr. Bean!
Yeah.
Like we had them on VHS, and I would just watch them over and over again. That's probably why I'm a little strange.
You got some.
Do you guys ever watch Ab Fab?
No. I don't know
Ab
what that
Fab.
is.
I won't get into that. I don't think Audis will know anything about it.
I'll look it
It's
up.
now like a gay cult classic, and it is brilliantly funny comedy.
Okay.
It's called Ab Fab, and it's
like a sitcom?
It's kind of It's
Okay.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's super great.
Check it out.
Yeah, Ab Fab.
Have fab. So tell me how you got from nursing into your run for city council in Wilsonville?
So I really,
I guess you're doing both.
yeah. So after, I'm now a working nurse, but at that time, and I had really my first thing out of the gate, like advocacy wise, made history. I mean, it's forever in the history books of Oregon. Like I did that. Nobody can ever take that away, right? Like the first, at bat, man, it was home run. Yeah. Home run. So
you feel like unlike you were.
So I felt a little bit called, I felt kind of drawn to that the politics and the public service piece,
making change.
And I actually had right out the gate, I ran for Congress, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I wasn't ready. I didn't know anybody. Didn't have any of the
state
infrastructure. No, federal Congress.
Gotcha.
I was recruited. So what happened is consultants from out of state saw my story. They were like, he's super interesting, and they like recruited me to run. I had no idea what I was doing. It was too premature. I learned a ton through that horrible experience.
I bet,
and I don't regret doing it, because through that process, I built valuable relationships that I have today within the political sphere. But I didn't get mad that I didn't. I got beat in the primary, by a very conservative. His name's Colin Willis. Now he's now a commissioner. Kirk Schrader was the incumbent congressman. I lost to Colin Willis, who now is a county commissioner in Marion County, just south of Portland, just south of Clackamas.
But he was running against Kurt.
Well, it was a primary. It was a primary, just Republicans, and he beat me pretty good in the primary.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing. Nobody trusted or liked me, because I just took out gay marriage, and they're like, "Who is this guy?"
But I mean, that guy that beat you, he went on to run against Kurt. Is that what
he went on to run against Kurt, and the general lost to Kurt.
Because that's a big race.
Yeah. And I didn't quite understand what I was getting into and what this was all about, but it was a fantastic learning experience. So I didn't quit. I said, okay, I'm going to scale it way back. I'm going to learn a little bit more. I want to still serve my local community, and I think I might be able to be good at this. So I ran for city council of Wilsonville, and I ended up winning, became a Wilsonville City Councilor, which is like a medium-sized suburb just outside of Portland.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I've always known it.
It's wonderful.
To R.I.P.
Perfect.
Fry's. I used to go to Fry's down there
Yep.
all the time. But
Yep. That was there. Yeah. And we're a little city. We're 30,000 people. We always punch above our weight because we have our state-of-the-art water treatment plant. We have quite a large industrial hub. We're very much attached to a lot of land use issues.
Was that Xerox? Are they there?
Xerox was over there too.
You have an outlet mall.
Gerber?
That's Woodburn.
Oh, never mind.
Gerber is in Tigard. We have Sig Sauer.
Sig Sauer,
we have Fleet. We have
Fleer. Is it?
Fleer, yeah. We're right next to the Aurora Airport. So there
Some
was
big names.
So all of this, we intersect policy-wise with a lot of big state issues. So we're always kind of
there's a lot of farmers.
We're punching above our weight.
You guys have the good you pick farms out there. It's so pretty.
Yep, those were a couple within city limits and just right outside it. Yeah. So I learned a lot, right? And I worked hard at doing that. So. And then I still worked as a nurse. So when I first got elected as a nurse, I would be pulling crazy graveyard shifts. I still worked full time as a nurse, and so that I had to change my schedule. The first year or so was a huge adjustment for me because I was still pulling these wild graveyard shifts on the nursing floor, and it was really hard to kind of find that balance between. And then COVID hits, so finding halfway through my term, and so it was sometimes finding that balance as a working man was and then raising a kid was a little tougher. But we got through it. I learned a ton. It made me also a way better county commissioner because on a smaller scale and a little bit different, you deal with some of the same issues within a city that you would within a large county. Yeah. And so, I ended up getting elected to the city council and finished on my 4-year term. I ran against an incumbent who was quite entrenched and well-funded. Okay. And a lot of people didn't think I could beat her. And last November, I beat her. And I've been holding the job as a county commissioner now in one of the largest counties in the state and in the Portland metro area for about 7-8 months.
Wow, yeah. That is a cool story, man. I don't know much about the structure of the council there. There's 4?
There's 5 of us.
5, okay.
Yep. Many counties only have 3 commissioners.
Okay.
The bigger counties, Portland's made up of 3 big counties. The Portland greater metro area, basically just Portland alone is, is not just Portland, the city. It's three big counties. It's Multnomah County, where the heart of Portland sits, where it's the most populated county. Washington County, that's Beaverton, Hillsborough, that's to the west. That is one of the big counties. And then there's to the south, Clackamas County, and we all border each other, and a lot of our policies have to intersect with one another, and what happens to one of us often impacts the other. But we are the tri-counties or the greater Portland area. Sometimes people talk about Vancouver because it's a metropolitan area across the river, but it's in a different state, so it's a little unique.
State lines.
But the three big dog counties that run a lot of the local policies and stuff that impacts the entire state, it is Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas.
Yeah.
And I serve in Clackamas.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I didn't actually write this down, but I was wondering, how do you three counties, do you deal with what's it called, Metro?
Yeah, we're all in Metro. But not the entire county. There's what's called a boundary, or an urban growth boundary, and within that boundary, within the three county areas, is also, there's another layer of government and bureaucracy, which I believe is completely unnecessary, is called Metro.
Yeah, because that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, I didn't mean in the general sense of the word, but there's this organization up here called Metro, which I don't know exactly what they deal with, but they have a lot of power up here and a lot of money.
And most municipal regions don't have a metro layer. A lot of that stuff is left to the counties.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So it's kind of this, at least in Clackamas County, we often are trying to push back and resist the efforts of Metro. Out of the three county area.
That's kind of what I was getting
Clackamas County is a little bit like, okay, you're actually more of a hindrance and a problem for us than a benefit.
Yeah.
And we often feel like we get Portland's table scraps after they're kind of the big voice and the big power players within not just the state legislature, but also within that regional little government of Metro.
Yeah. That's basically what I was asking, is like, is it hard competing with those two other counties of like trying to get on some sort of the same page with Metro and what they do? And
it's a delicate and difficult dance.
Yeah, I bet. Okay.
Washington County is less crazy though than Multnomah.
A little more sensible.
It's a little like, it's blue. Like it's definitely, it's
they
pretty
still
blue.
have traffic cops.
Yeah, but their DA is a stud. Like he is awesome.
Yeah.
Kevin Barton is awesome,
Their
right?
upside is they actually prosecute crimes.
Just like Clackamas County.
Yeah.
And almost
So,
Clackamas
yeah.
County and Clackamas County, I feel like, are almost like in a competition to who can be like more law and order based.
We'll show you
and like
that.
show how we are not Portland, and we will,
Yeah.
and the whole Mike Schmidt like chaos and the lack of ability to actually prosecute crime and hold people accountable and have a safe community, and the overt ideological and purposeful desire to like govern in a way that and progressive in a way that actually like encourages crime and lawlessness and chaos.
It's
like there is a real counterbalance, but a lot of the people, because of us just being a little bit more, Clackamas County is the safest county with more than 7,500 residents per state crime data. If you have more than 7,500 residents in your county, Clackamas County is the safest county. Wow. And we definitely have our things that we're working on, and a lot of stuff that bleeds over from Portland, but we very much will prosecute your crime if you act the fool in Clackamas County. If you have it coming to you and it can be proved in a court of law and you are found guilty, you will not be let off the hook. You will be held accountable, and don't bring those shenanigans to my county.
Yeah.
So
and it's
Happy
close.
Valley.
I'll
Happy
tell you,
Valley.
it's close because I live.
You're very close to
close
Clackamas.
to Clackamas.
We're like, I think, almost walking distance. You're on.
Yeah, it's like a mile or two.
Yeah, it's like you're
I
close.
feel bad for you.
And but I've been like, I'm like, man, I should get in Clackamas County.
You should come on over. The water's real nice.
It's more expensive.
The whole metro area is too expensive, and that's a whole other podcast.
Everybody went to Clackamas though. Like I think it's easier to get a house in Portland, like in Multnomah now, than it is in Clackamas, because everybody left.
Yeah,
and they went to your beautiful county.
Well, nobody wants to live in Portland.
and often many people are coming to our county. I'm proud.
I know people who did. They fled Portland and they were like, "Well, we're done with this. We're going to Happy Valley."
I'm super proud of our county. Like right now, and at least since I've been there, I can talk about since I've been there for 7 or 8 months. The county has been a strong juxtaposition to what Portland is.
Yeah.
Right. Do not Portland my Clackamas is like, everyone feels that way. And we also, through our leadership as a big county with good resources, has started this kind of groundswell with the other counties. There's 36 counties in the entire state. Some have like tiny populations. Small, and like just a couple thousand people, and some, are larger. And the count, there's a hand, but most of the counties ideologically tend to be more conservative or moderate.
Yeah.
But it's almost kind of like starting to herd them together, galvanize them together to be a firewall as a local government to the crazy policies coming out of the state, or the state abdicating its role and not doing its job in good government. And then also pushing back against Portland. Under Clackamas County's leadership, I'm literally starting to see all these other counties follow suit, ask us for direction, and start to put policies together as a coalition that really puts pressure, not just on the legislature, but even the governor, and be very creative in how we try to mitigate these chronic and persistent issues in Oregon at the local level. And I love local government because it's the government that impacts your life the most.
Right.
Nothing impacts your life more than your local government. Multnomah County and Portland, since you guys live in this region, impact your life, and the school boards impact your life even more than the state, the federal government, and much more than the presidency ever would.
Yeah.
And so day to day, like when you have large counties with large resources and big microphones, they impact your life much, much more. And there are ways in a federalist system to be able to use local government to try to push back against insane policies. And we're leading that way. And I have example after example about how that's happening in Clackamas. And we are trying to create that contrast. Now, that county went 8 points or 10 points for Biden, right? It kind of is a bellwether. It kind of rocks between being moderate red to, like, if it goes too far, then it backlashes to blue again. But it is, as a county as a whole, is quite different than the rest of the metro area. And so right now we have a board that is very focused on handling addiction and homelessness in a much different way than you have seen happen in Portland or in the state. And we have much, like, our recovery-oriented system of care, and that resolution has not only impacted our policies, but now is starting to impact other counties in the state.
Yeah.
Our referral to the voters as an advisory vote. Now, advisory votes don't have any teeth. They don't have any power. But what they do is allow the voters to voice and give advice on an issue if we refer it to the ballot, and then that could put pressure on the state legislature and the governor.
Yeah.
So our 2 questions on Measure 110 are going to the voters. Other counties are considering putting those also to their voters to create a coalition to push back against decriminalization of hard illicit drugs in the metro area and throughout Oregon. How we address harm reduction, right? You guys just had to talk about boofing, snorting kits, smoking straws, and charred foil, right? And so
foil
we
is
don't
really the shark being jumped. Like, you lost everyone with the foil.
Yeah,
there's just no coming back from that.
Nothing.
No.
Yeah.
Needles,
but we don't do that in Clackamas County. We are leading in a different way, right? When you talk about our largest item that we fund out of our general fund budget by far is public safety and law enforcement. We throw lots of money at that because we want safe communities with safe, livable, and vibrant spaces. Now, listen, people here were in the Portland metro area, and they're like, "What? You exist within that area?" Yes, and sometimes even nationally, we're getting attention because, like, what is happening in this one county in the Portland area, right? So there is hope, and there is good government, and we're not afraid to be bold in our actions if it's truthful and right.
Yeah.
And I'm proud in 7 months to see a shift and a real leadership coming out of Clackamas that creates the contrast against the
You're
mayhem.
making us look worse.
Right. Yeah. Well, we are. We're just turning the mirror towards the look. Yeah. Right? We're just turning the mirror.
I'm glad for it.
Yeah.
It feels different too. As soon as you go into Clackamas County, I always feel like the atmosphere is different. And so for the past 3 years, ever since COVID hit, like, I would leave Multnomah County and I would go to Clackamas for my kids to have fun or to just feel a little bit more normal because people are less likely to, like, scream at them for not having masks on in public or something like that. It's nice.
Yeah. Watch the recovery summit that we're doing in Clackamas. That's coming in September.
Okay.
I worked super hard to find some of the best thought leaders around recovery-oriented systems of care throughout North America. We have a number of policymakers coming out of Canada. We have people from Texas, from all over the United States to come and convene a summit on
addiction recovery, or just
how do we
economic?
how do we help influence the policies and the strategy in Clackamas County around a recovery-oriented system of care, which has a specific meaning in how we do things. We believe that people who need recovery should get the treatment and recovery that they need. We must urgently fill the gaps within the care continuum. We must allow people to get stabilized and detoxed and not trapped in an endless cycle of addiction, but they get to a point at the end where they're self-sufficient, whole, and healed individuals, and no longer having to be a slave to the poison that pulses through them. And we're not about allowing people to maintain in this dysfunction and also impact their local community in a negative way as they live that way. And as all the stakeholders within a community, how do we promote a recovery? Because this is a novel statement in the Portland metro area and Clackamas County. We believe recovery is actually possible, that this is not.
And a good thing.
And it's compassionate and a good thing. And right. And so things like Measure 110 are such a dysfunctional, horrible piece of legislation that has actually really exasperated. We outpace the rest of the nation in overdoses, so we're seeing a climb of overdoses by 61%, where the rest of the nation is only seeing it by 13%. We lead the nation in opioid addiction, and we also continue to trail the rest of the nation in access to treatment and care. It's fundamentally immoral that we continue to do that and elect people to do that, and then we ask them to fix the problem they created. Your policies created this mess, and now we cannot continue to look to that same echo chamber as if they have the solutions that fix the problem. Tina Kotek just announced today that she wants to do a task force with businesses, business leaders in Portland. Honey, we don't need a task force. We need you to call an emergency session and fix Measure 110, amend it, and get people care and treatment. We need you. It's obvious. The emperor has no clothes. We're not going to be lied to anymore. We can see what the real issue here is. And I think people are starting to wake up to that.
But she hasn't really mentioned 110, has she?
Well, when the Drug Policy Alliance, who basically was the big funder behind Measure 110, funds your campaign, and your base loves Measure 110 and is still trying to hold on to it, she has to politically dance around it. I think fundamentally in her soul, she like is trying and gets it, but she doesn't have the ability, I think, to really do anything because her base and some of her funders and some of the extreme portions within her party won't let her.
They're not going to have it.
It really
She's little half measures aren't enough. People are dying every day in front of us.
And it's like, I think it's impacted the whole state too, because
totally,
no matter where you go, if you enter a city or like a larger town and you go to the downtown area, all these people are struggling with it. I've looked because I live in Portland. I've looked around Oregon to figure out if we can leave and go somewhere else. And I don't feel like trusting anywhere that we can actually afford, because you look at what people are saying and they're like, well, we have encampments all over the place down here and there's people doing drugs on the doorsteps at the library and all that. And I'm like, and these are small places where people would never have supported this idea. Even if it's conservative area.
I think it's pretty well accepted. It's funny because last week I took I took like 5 Lyft rides, and I always talk to the drivers. I probably annoy the shit out of them, but
I almost got run over by one yesterday.
Almost every single one. I talked to a guy who's from Greece he's lived here 15 years, and he was talking about the change he saw in downtown, and I asked him, what do you think that is? And he said, absolutely, it's drugs. And I told him, you see that in Greece? And he said, no, you don't see that in Greece.
I love the Greeks. Hi, Greeks.
Because I've been trying to pinpoint, just make sure across the board of all walks of life, do you think there's a drug problem? And I would say almost all people think it's a drug problem.
It's drugs with culture.
I think homelessness is a symptom of unmitigated drug and mental health issues. And homelessness is a symptom of that.
I think it has to do with the family too, like you were talking about earlier.
It's just such a joke that it's a housing issue. I mean,
it's not.
I mean, housing is a tool within a recovery continuum that has to be utilized as a tool, like a hammer or a chisel within a system. But it is not a housing issue. And those that are financially and economically unstable and potentially could be temporary homeless with no drug issue, those are the easiest to house and the easiest to support and help. But this chronic issue that we're looking at every day is due to rampant drug use and untreated mental illness. Often they intersect together.
And
to many, what I just said is highly controversial, but that is the truth.
Like people, I think it's also growing up with entitlement as like a cultural thing. Because you pair with the entitlement with people who are like purposeless, hopeless, mentally ill. They think that they deserve to be given something, even if they're not doing anything, on top of like just society kind of breaking down underneath them and there being no floor.
Totally. Yeah.
I think a lot of what you said makes sense to me too. Of like, I was going to ask so this kind of getting all these smaller counties to on their own repeal 110, or is that
not accurate? So let me clear. The counties can put what's called an advisory vote forward. All they're saying is should we do this, advise what the government should do this. It has no actual like policy teeth.
Yeah.
But let's say you have it come out and 70% of the voters are like, yes, we agree with this. And you have a large chunk of counties that all put that to their voters. And now the governor and the legislature know that they have to run on this issue and they have to be held accountable to this issue. And the electorate is watching them and demanding them to take action.
Yeah.
It's us shouting from the local level through an advisory vote to get off your ass and to do something.
Yeah, and that is political pressure. A lot of people, like, I can picture the map now of like it's all like Multnomah County is the only one that's like supporting it still.
It's like
but
this
that's
little blue
a lot of
circle.
pressure from all these other locations in the state that the governor has to visit and talk to these people.
And they are all suffering.
Yeah.
And they like.
And I guess now we have to wait either for a special session or for like the next long session. So what is that, 2 years from now? That's unacceptable. We do not have the time to continue to watch people kill themselves on the street slowly and commit suicide
from all
in front
over
of
the
us.
country. They're just coming from everywhere and they're dying here.
And it's a national
insane.
embarrassment.
Yeah, it is like you mentioned, because I think the New York Times just did a thing like a week or two ago.
Yeah,
about
there
There's a great article out of The Atlantic too that's totally worth reading on this issue about how Measure 110's been a failure. It's just and all of this is done under this woke social justice, racial equity kind of, like, that's why we have to decriminalize.
Right.
What's really sad is a lot of the people they say they're helping are the ones most impacted by this horrible policy. Because along with a lot of this also comes a high rate of criminality and exploitation of vulnerable people. And it's really unfortunate how we got here. So the Drug Policy Alliance, which is a large special interest group back east, a big lobbying special interest group, partially funded by George Soros, they saw Oregon as big enough to make a difference, but not too big that it's too expensive and that it could probably be politically palatable with their messaging to get it across. So they dumped millions of dollars from outside the state to push the Measure 110. A lot of voters did not quite understand or do their homework to understand what they were voting for. Many people have buyer's remorse now because they thought people would actually be getting the type of treatment they need to get healed.
They lied. I mean, they just lied.
And there's a lot of lies, right? And there was not millions and millions of dollars to where the opposition for Measure 110 only had a couple $100,000 to fight this, right? Wow. So they had no oppositions and they just ran roughshod right over the entire state. And now we're living with that really horrible policy. And then they also were very supportive and donors to very progressive ideological politicians in this state.
It does seem like hopefully
Mike Schmidt.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe a significant amount of money was given to the governor. I think certain legislators got
I believe it,
big
absolutely,
checks.
yeah. And that's what I was just going to say. I feel like it's taking a long time and it's a slow process, but I feel like more people are seeing that like Portland is this like guinea pig experiment from outside money in a lot of cases.
I think we have to be super clear. I want to be very clear about this. Nobody in Oregon historically has been, if they had a drug problem, has been just like put away. We did not have, for decades, we're not just like jailing mass amounts of people for drug issues. But when you went to court, you had an intersection with accountability and you could be spurred towards treatment or care, right? Yeah. And nobody is arguing for mass jailing and incarceration. Anybody time says that to you, it's a logical fallacy. Nobody's making that argument. Yeah. You're being extreme in your words and not factual. But we do need a robust justice system that's modernized, that allows people to have a little bit of a stick with that carrot to say, hey, if you're going to continue to do this and you're going to harm your community, then you have a choice of either getting sober within the justice system, or you need to get to treatment, and we'll get you into treatment. One of the things we're going to do in Clackamas County that I'm super excited about and leading on is we're going to build a recovery campus, a large campus that has the holistic care continuum where people can potentially stay long term until they're clean and sober and get somewhere where they can get the care they need, all the way from the beginning of making that choice to get clean to getting a job and to living on their own and being self-sufficient. And so nobody else is doing that really in the region in the way that we're thinking of doing it. And we're now planning and looking at properties and being innovative. How do we bring innovative recovery-oriented systems here? We're bringing a campus because we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to start investing in recovery, because we can't keep saying there's just a gap in care. All this rolls down downhill to the local governments, and we just have to deal with this
Yeah.
garbage, right?
Yeah.
All these bad ideas are at the local level. We have to deal with the local level. So we're just doing things differently in Clackamas. It's exciting. Our worldview, like I've talked about that earlier, is informing our actions.
Yeah.
So you should know exactly who I am by the worldview I told you about today, right? And that's how you should expect me to govern if you've ever voted for me or my colleagues who share that same worldview.
I would vote for you for governor.
Oh my God, that's a wood
Right
chipper.
now.
That's a wood chipper. I like being a
I
county
would
commissioner.
show up and like stump for you. I would go door to door.
They're very
I take
sweet.
that back. I don't like
I
socializing.
do think it'd be really cool to eventually have a Republican governor again. I know that's like a bad word in Oregon, just the R word, but like we've had them before in the past, and I'm not saying you would run as one, but like
I am not either.
I think it's possible in the future given the right conditions. But yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting that it's become so demonized. And I think what you're saying makes sense though, because like to me right now, that's why I've been so focused on Multnomah County. I think Multnomah County is at a very weak point right now. Everyone sees how ineffective and the bad decisions they've made and all this stuff. So I could see this really working in the sense of like the whole state looks to a different county like Clackamas County to get these kind of blueprints for like how do we handle these issues and so makes a lot of sense.
I hope and we'll continue the work to inspire the other counties to feel like they have a champion and a bigger county to partner with.
Yeah.
I think your mullet should run for governor because I would totally campaign for that mullet to lead us.
With or without dandruff.
With or without dandruff,
we'll get it taken care of before.
It's treatable.
It's treatable. Okay, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay,
you're wearing a black shirt and I'm seeing one flake, so you're doing good today.
No bullshit. I usually put a fresh one on right before.
Do you?
So
That's why it's called fresh.
Yeah.
It's about a shirt.
But this is kind of a good segue. I wanted to bring up, and I'm not trying to plug them, but I thought it was cool how REI is opening up this huge thing in Clackamas in the mall.
Yeah.
And I don't know the status.
They're already there. They already do have a Clackamas Town Center.
This is an expansion.
Which I'm glad because that area is on freaking life support. That commercial area, that's kind of like the commercial gateway and hub of Clackamas County. It's on life support. It's right by 82nd, close to Portland, and criminality and a lot of issues have really hurt that area. It used to be, if you grew up here, I grew up in this area, like Clackamas Mall was the place to be. Yeah. And if you're going to go to a mall and you want to be somewhere that's healthy and commercially vibrant, everybody goes to Washington Square now in Washington County. Man, that place is every weekend is like Christmas weekend. And it's packed.
Just an aside about Clackamas, people don't believe this, but I'm like, this is where Tanya Harding used to ice skate.
That's where she used to ice skate.
And people are like,
really? So weird.
Yeah, you could watch Tanya Harding ice skate.
Yeah.
Another,
Anyway.
I'm a fan.
Just another functional part
I just
of
think
Oregon.
that's an interesting...
If you haven't seen I, Tonya, that is a great movie.
it's really good.
I actually
so
haven't
stinking.
seen
Oh,
it.
it's
my
a must
gosh.
watch.
Yeah.
But I was like alive during that, and I was telling some younger people about it. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, she beat the shit out of this other skater, and like they were like, what are you talking about?
A henchman did
her
for her.
hitman,
Watch I,
yeah.
Tonya.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
It wasn't
so
her
good.
personally.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know how really complicit she was in it either when you watch. Maybe I, Tonya tells a different perspective.
They kept it pretty separate. And when I worked at Channel 8, she came in one time, but I didn't talk to her, Tanya Harding.
Oh, such an interesting story,
I wanted
man.
to, but
Oh my God, she's so interesting.
She's like the Britney of Oregon.
Kind
Britney
of.
Spears.
Kind of.
Like
both talented.
A lot of
really,
drama,
Yeah.
like kind of redneck, dysfunctional.
Man,
famous.
that woman could jump. Just powerful woman.
Yeah.
She wasn't as elegant and like all princess-like on that, which was like she was already revolutionizing by just being a powerhouse, an athlete.
Yeah.
And so her downfall was like that ability to be really elegant and not just like, I don't know. She was like
a redneck.
No, she was like, I don't know. Maybe she could equate her to like a power runner in the NFL, but on ice.
Yeah.
She went full beast mode, like Marshawn Lynch on ice skates.
Yeah.
She's got like the V12
That's so
engine.
funny.
Yeah.
First woman to do a triple axel.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was another really powerful African. Oh, she was African, but she was French. I forget her name, but she was also a very, very athletic skater who wasn't treated that well because she didn't conform to the sensibilities of the elegance of skating.
The ice princess.
Yeah. Like Nancy Kerrigan, the ice princess. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. We all like Tanya more than Nancy Kerrigan. I do. Am I allowed to say that out loud? Like,
no, you can say it.
Maybe I'm a homer, and I don't know. I like
say
a
it.
little thug in my ice skater.
Well, like I come from white trash area.
So do I.
Redneck, so I just have to.
Yeah, my background is not cute.
Yeah, I'm always gonna go for trailer park.
Yeah. She's like a hillbilly elegy of ice skating.
Okay, well, I guess we're all in agreement. Tanya.
Yeah.
Tanya, if you're listening,
Shout
you can
out
come
to
on the
Tanya.
show.
We love you, Tanya.
We love you.
Yeah, but I just thought that was interesting because I don't know what's going on with the current Portland REI, but I was just like, to me, it seems like they're like
a lot
we're
of businesses
coming over here.
are leaving and they're coming to Clackamas County. We're open for business and we'll protect you from crazy thugs like Antifa or criminal rioters. I will not call them protesters.
Yeah.
It's not a protest.
It's
or
not a
parade.
protest. It's criminal rioting.
Yeah.
And I don't test me, but do not do that stuff in Clackamas County.
Yeah.
You will be held accountable.
Because if people don't know, like a lot of the time, what
Hold on, I think we need
could do another one.
we need another.
A lot of people.
I've grown to have a little
Let's go,
appreciation
Peaty
for this.
Scotch.
My husband is not gonna like kissing me
He's not
after
gonna
this.
kiss you for like 3 days.
No, he will.
I like your
He's just not
husband.
gonna like
He's such
it.
a nice guy.
He's gorgeous.
God, he is gorgeous.
Oh, you got the raw end of the deal.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't care. The last one was kind of full, but
Okay,
so it kind of equals out.
it's equal enough.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Yep, it's equal enough.
You guys swig
right.
yours and I sip it like.
Oh, I just
It's all good. However you want to.
just down.
I
Here we go.
thought-
The last of the Peaty Scotch.
Take your time. It's fine.
You guys are so weird. Okay.
I'm just like happy because it's not as bad as I was
Woo!
anticipating. So, but it's nice. It's like a barbecue.
He's about to cut loose now.
Barbecue in your mouth. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's go.
It's coming out the
Let's
ass.
go. Yeah.
It's coming out everything.
That was kind of all. I always end with the same kind of goofy questions, but I do want to know. Are you Oregonian or did you move?
I am a 6th generation Oregonian.
6th gen. Okay.
He's more Oregonian than anybody I've ever met.
I'm like the real deal. I grew up in North Portland in the same home my father grew up in. We had the same childhood bedroom.
Wow.
My grandparents lived there. We've had 4 generations in that home actually. Now with my niece still lives there with my sister.
Still.
And my parents still live
Wow,
there.
wow.
Yeah. My niece is also a figure skater. She's quite.
Oh my God.
She's quite brilliant.
This is all
actually.
coming back to
Yeah.
Tanya versus. Yeah.
But she's probably less violent.
Yeah,
than
my niece is the figure skater. My son's the football player.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I like being engaged in all that. I'm proud of the kiddos.
That's
I'm proud
cool.
of them.
That's cool. So, what do you have an absolute favorite thing about the North? It doesn't have to be Oregon, but Northwest.
About the North, I'm gonna keep it Oregon focused. I love how if you live in the Portland metro area, anywhere in the Portland metro area, you are 45 minutes to an hour and a half to world class beauty and outdoor excellence.
You're saying in any direction.
In
Yes,
any direction,
I think we
almost.
brought this up the last
I mean, it's just
episode.
absolutely epic. And so I know a lot of people don't feel this way now, but like I still fly in from being somewhere else and there's Hood. I'm flying in next to Hood and I'm coming, and I know that's the front facing part of my county. And I'm just like, this place is worth fighting for. This place
pretty.
used to be one of the crown jewels of the West Coast. It went from like funky, weird, goofy kid to like rebellious, insane adolescent that's driving the normal parents insane right now. But this place is worth fighting for. Anywhere from the Willamette Valley to the Painted Hills. We have a lot of things that show us that Oregon's not healthy. There's a lot of symptoms that we can assess and see that show us that Oregon's sick. If you want 2/3 of the state that don't even want to be part of Oregon anymore, that's not healthy.
Yeah.
You walk around downtown Portland and it's boarded up and looks like an episode of The Walking Dead. That's not healthy. Skyrocketing murder rates, not healthy. Economic distress, unaffordable housing due to bad policies and land use restrictions, that's not healthy. At the same time, if we right the ship, this is one of the most magical places to live in the entire world.
It is.
And so I'm still here and stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm still fighting for my home. I love it here. So as long as I can, as long as the voters will elect me, I will not only enjoy this beautiful state, but keep fighting for it.
Yeah. I feel like we're probably all on that same page because it's like I moved here in a much better time in like 2006. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it went from like
The wildest thing was a naked bike ride.
yeah, which
Whatever.
actually coincidentally
Don't fall.
is going on today, by the way. But
Is it?
Yeah.
Now that just seems annoying.
You know what's funny though is I saw it on my like phone feed, and now like in the news feed they're like blurring all this stuff. I feel like they used to not do that, and now it's
What
like
if somebody like they fall off their bike and they're all closely bunched together and like talk about road rash? My
yeah.
God.
Oh yeah. I'm surprised you haven't seen some of those injuries coming
Dicks
in.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dicks
just
on the
gravel
pavement.
everywhere. Ooh.
Yeah.
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 I also get
Travel
like,
at your own risk.
I also get super tired. I was on a hike a couple weeks ago, and someone was bringing it up. What about the naked bike ride? I just get so tired of people bringing it up because I'm like, I've lived here for almost 20 years, and like I don't
have patience
I've seen
for weird
it
anymore.
I've seen
I
all the
know.
naked
I'm over
asses
it.
and stuff.
I'm like,
and,
I would
you're,
like-
how exciting! You're so brave. You're naked. I mean, it's just not like the city's boarded up. It's looks like a dystopian nightmare, and nobody wants to see your flabby junk on a bicycle.
and it's kind of like we were
True
just
that.
talking about of like, because I was trying to think of the analogy. It kind of went from like the quirky jewel of the nation to like the like dirty like coal or something.
We
I
are
don't
the
know.
butt of the joke of like everything.
Have you ever traveled and you're like, oh yeah, I'm from Portland? Like, oh my god.
I know.
yeah.
I mean, it's just like everywhere you go, they're all just like a
Well,
gas.
at first they were like, "Where's that? Is that in Seattle?"
Yeah,
Like that was my.
That was maybe
experience.
20 years ago or something. Is that what you mean? Like a long
Yeah,
time?
well, you know, because I moved away from home. I grew up here, and then I moved away from home. Went to the East Coast. Nobody knew what Portland was.
Yeah.
It wasn't until Portlandia, and even then, like I don't know, but people thought I like that Portland is in Washington or that it's part of Seattle.
Or they
like
think you're talking about Maine.
yeah, something like that.
Maine.
And then all of a sudden, everyone knows who we are, but it's not in a good way.
not always in a good way now.
Yeah.
I loved it though. We were so weird, like and cute.
Yeah.
But that's what I feel like I feel like it's possible to recover that. And obviously, I don't know. It's one of the reasons I'm trying to do this show and other things, but like, it's worth fighting for, like you said, I think.
Or we just like the rest of the state kind of hedges off Portland and lets it kind of do its own thing. Like,
Yeah.
You should build a wall.
yeah, build the wall. Yeah,
You should
Yeah.
just wall us in, like
have the nuclear
East
buttons.
Germany.
Have the nuclear We'll have the nuclear weapons in Canby, Clackamas County, pointed towards like ready for the nuclear codes.
Yeah, the two keys and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
We're kidding. We're kidding.
Yeah.
Everybody, calm down. We're kidding.
I am
I would
kidding
be-
because I don't want to get trapped.
Yeah,
in
I would be
there.
part of that. I would be destroyed.
I
You
gotta
guys
get
could
out.
come be refugees in Clackamas County. We're accepting all normal, sane people, regardless of party affiliation, as long as you don't vote the same way as people did in Multnomah County.
I do want to try to get in there.
Yeah.
I love Clackamas.
Yeah.
I have too many people to move.
How many?
I have 4 kids.
We have big lots with like the schools are better. Some of those schools are better.
I don't care.
Wilsonville Westland School District. My kid goes to Westland High School. Go Lions! State football champions. My kid is the starting. I think he's the starting defensive end this year, going into senior.
They're probably starting.
We're looking to
starting up the
we're looking
season.
to go back to back. Next week football camp starts.
Okay.
My kid's is quite excited going into a senior year.
This
so
is a little known fact, but for maybe about 2 weeks when I was working at Channel 8, I had to shoot high school football games, and I did not like it.
You didn't like it?
But I did get to go on the sidelines and shoot.
I'm proud, Dad. I'm totally
I'd be
there.
fun. I would enjoy watching it, but
I want to go to one in Texas. I just want to be
If you
part
want
of
that
that
same type
crowd.
of like quality, you go to a Westland game.
Okay.
Yeah,
pretty
if
competitive.
Westland's playing Central Catholic right now, or like Tualatin, those 3 are the
Rivalries.
or anything in that. I think the games within the Westland kind of district or their division, those are the fun games and the best quality football. And people turn out. We took our friends from London; they came to stay with us, and they don't kind of have that same high school like sports vibe that
Yeah,
we do with football
energy,
here.
yeah.
And they were blown away by like the stadiums are packed, and you know you get the popcorn and hot dogs, and the kids doing the halftime show, and just the whole
Friday Night
community
Lights.
the whole Friday Night Lights is a real thing.
Yeah.
And I'll just I like to kind of just be a beaming proud dad, so I'll always give the Westland Lions a good plug because it's not always been good for my kid, but I'm supporting the home team.
yeah. Cool. I mean, you kind of got into it, but what's your least favorite thing about up here? You kind of did already do that, I guess, but
My least favorite thing is the politics.
yeah.
The politics,
How-
the
how-
feckless, failed, and dangerous leadership of the status quo that have been given the reins of power, election cycle after election cycle. And the truth is people refuse to be honest and say, my vote has consequences, and this is the outcome and the fruit of decades of bad policy. Who has held the reins of power? Are you holding them accountable as a voter as you should, regardless of party? And are you looking for new and innovative ideas? Are you so tribalistic? You
Okay.
can't actually think outside
This
and change the power
is the
structure.
thing. Yes, because on my Nextdoor, I try to ignore Nextdoor.
Isn't that mostly for like senior citizens?
Not
She
here.
loves
It's
it.
like moms and
I
grandmas.
do not like Nextdoor. Okay,
I do not have a Nextdoor account.
Not in Portland.
Okay.
In Portland, it's all wokes and a few people who have like masochistic tendencies, who like to get beat up on there. I don't know why. So in Portland, it's a woke nightmare. But there's a lot of people who are expressing frustration on there. They're like, Portland is insane, and I'm out. Like, I just can't take this anymore. And sometimes I read those posts because it's a little cathartic. I'm like, okay, I'm not the only crazy one. Like, other people are frustrated, even like Democrats and like whatever. So I started reading this post recently where this woman is like, this place is crazy. It's a literal dumpster fire. Like, it seems like the leaders are literally trying to like destroy this for some reason. I don't know why. And I'm reading it and I'm like, yes, you're finally getting it. And then she's like, people are going to get so frustrated they might start voting for conservatives. And like, we can't have that because that's when bad things happen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're never.
I don't know if that's what you were talking about, but that's what bugs me too. Of like, it's become such a toxic bad word to just say Republican or conservative, and it's like that's not a healthy.
She thinks they're going to cut down the entire forest and burn it like for fun.
No.
I don't.
I'm all for just listening to more voices.
I mean, there's people like me that are just kind of weird anomalies that are just trying to bring good ideas. And and I think sometimes the voters are manipulated to worry about things that actually don't make a difference in anybody's life, and they hit hot button issues that don't actually change the thing, and use fear tactics within campaigns, and people get manipulated. But I do think, at a certain point, how much more pain do you want? You don't, and there are good Democrats that are going to we are not going to support this mayhem anymore.
Yeah,
we need some adults in the room. Renee Gonzalez is fantastic. Mingus Maps is doing a good job. I think Mayor Ted Wheeler is looking for his spine still. Maybe he's starting to find it.
He's come around a little bit.
It's nice to. Welcome to the game. My God, it's taken a while, right?
Yeah.
From the summer of love to. But here's the thing: is you said something about system.
Yeah.
Listen to them. Everything they say within that woke mantra is to destroy and tear down the system, which they think is irredeemably flawed in America. They're doing it in front of you. Believe them. Right? It's all downstreams from the radical fringe. The radical fringe is informing the policymakers, and they believe that America is woefully evil and that we need to destroy and tear down the system. And then ask this question and replace it with what?
Themselves.
Right? What are you going to replace it with? And is it right? And trust me, it's not better.
No, it's Marxists. Right? They want
and so
Marxist
you're right. You're and they're realizing wake up because they're telling you exactly what they're doing.
I try to point that out to people who Portland's changed so much. I'm like, well, how much we defunded the police up here, and I think that's a prime example of just if they want to do it, they'll do it, and we'll just watch it happen.
I'm the cops commissioner, man. I'm all about funding the police, supporting the blue, and we have a great professional, ethical police force. And if they happen to have a bad actor, that bad actor will be held accountable. But overall, I am real damn proud of our law enforcement in Clackamas County.
Yeah,
I'm proud of our district attorney. I'm proud of our policies. I'm proud of our sheriff's office, and especially the men and women on the front line. I did a 14-hour ride along. I think of my first week.
Damn.
Nobody does a 14-hour ride along.
That's a long ride along.
Yeah, so I'm with usually electeds only do 2 hours or 4 hours. No, I'm staying with you this whole. He was like, I'm supposed to work overtime. So I was like, well, I'm working overtime with you. I saw a ton of crime up and down 82nd. A lot of it intersected with fentanyl. It was wild. My ride along was crazy. It was wild. But I'm real proud of those men and women on the front lines that do really hard jobs, and then politicians almost make their jobs impossible.
Yeah, that's what it's. I feel like it's rare to find any elected person who's pro-police, at least up here. And
or Clackamas County, we are pro-police. Yeah. I am very proud of the people that wear that badge. Yep, they're heroes in our family.
It's great, man. All right, is there anything else you want to talk about, or anybody? Anything else you want to ask?
I don't have. You guys ask great questions. It was an honor to be on your podcast. Man, it's tons of fun. Good conversation. I love good conversation.
You're always welcome, and I like this Peaty stuff. If you got more,
maybe next time I'll bring a couple different whiskeys.
That would be fun. I could bring something too. Right now, I smell like a tent fire.
Which actually you saw on the way here.
I did. I got stuck in traffic.
Well, you are in Portland, and they tend to combust frequently.
Yes, along 205. I'm coming here, and traffic is ground to a stop. It's because people are rubbernecking. There's a huge plume of smoke coming off of the roadside. It's a campfire. An encampment fire, not a campfire.
Yeah.
They lit a big old dry hillside on fire, and there's a...
Yeah, I think I might have seen one yesterday. It's super common up here.
It is very common.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Ben, for coming in. And we'll hopefully have you back at some point.
Absolutely, anytime.
We can talk about fun things.
We can. We do some. We want to
Yeah.
talk about politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.